So now Prince William is totally unbothered by Prince Harry? He's suddenly not mad, doesn't mention him, and just lives in peaceful indifference? Well, that's the narrative that's been peddled around lately. But let's take a closer look, shall we? According to some outlets, particularly the Daily Mail, yes, you heard it right, that Daily Mail, Prince William has apparently moved on from Harry's outbursts. He no longer even brings up his brother in conversation. This is the story they are selling us, that William is the emotionally mature one, composed and above the fray. Meanwhile, Harry is painted as the angry, impulsive one, the one who can't keep family secrets. But let's ask ourselves some critical questions. If William has truly moved on, why are royal sources still talking about Harry? Why does the UK press continue to churn out stories that revolve around Harry rather than focusing on William's actual royal duties? The truth, as it seems to us, is that Harry is still very much a topic of interest. He continues to live rent-free in their headlines, and perhaps in their heads. The reality of the situation might be a bit different than the fairy tale we're being sold. This isn't a story about reconciliation or maturity. It's about strategic silence, emotional detachment. It's about a royal cold shoulder that's meant to punish Harry for having the audacity to speak his truth. William's supposed indifference isn't peace, it's pride. And the timing of these narratives? Oh, it's always perfect. Just as Meghan's brand, as ever, is making waves and grabbing headlines, they conveniently drop this narrative to shift the spotlight. Again. If William truly didn't care, we wouldn't be reading these articles. But the fact that they're still feeding the press proves something loud and clear. They're not over Harry. They're just out of moves. So I ask again, please, who's buying this royal PR fairy tale? According to the Daily Mail, yes, that Daily Mail, William has apparently moved on from Harry's outbursts and no longer even talks about his brother. So the story unfolds. The Daily Mail has us believe that Prince William is the epitome of emotional maturity, a composed figure who has risen above the family squabbles that have dominated headlines. On the other hand, we have Prince Harry painted as the reckless brother who can't help but air the family's dirty laundry. But let's take a moment here to question this narrative. If Prince William has truly moved on, why are royal sources still spilling the beans about Harry? Why does every other headline in the British press revolve around Harry's supposed tantrums rather than William's official royal engagements? The answer is glaringly obvious. Harry has become a permanent tenant in the minds of the British media, living rent-free in their headlines. The media's obsession with Harry is far from over, contrary to what the Daily Mail wants us to believe. This isn't a tale of reconciliation or maturity. It's a saga of strategic silence, a deliberate emotional detachment, the royal cold shoulder, if you will. It's not peace that William is exuding, but pride. And the timing of this narrative couldn't be more perfect. Just when Meghan's brand, as ever, is soaring and grabbing headlines, the narrative shifts in a desperate attempt to steal the limelight. So, let's call a spade, shall we? This isn't about William being unbothered or moving on. This is about a narrative that's out of moves, a narrative that's still clinging on to Harry for relevance. If William was truly done, if he had really moved on, we wouldn't be reading this article. But the fact that the royal sources are still feeding the press about Harry, that alone speaks volumes. It's clear as day, they're not over Harry, they're just out of moves. Why does the UK press keep pushing stories that centre around Harry, not William's actual royal duties? An interesting question, isn't it? The answer lies in the fact that Harry, the rebellious royal, continues to live rent-free in the headlines and in the minds of those royal sources. This isn't a coincidence, it's a carefully curated narrative. A narrative where Harry is the bad guy, the black sheep, and William, he's painted as the golden boy, the epitome of royal decorum. But let's peel back the layers and take a closer look at this narrative, shall we? The press would have us believe that William's silence is a sign of his maturity and emotional strength. They frame his indifference as peace. But is it really peace? Or is it more accurately described as pride? Think about it. If William was genuinely unbothered by Harry's actions, why would there be a need for these constant stories about Harry? Why would the press and those royal sources feel the need to constantly bring Harry into the equation? Doesn't sound like indifference to me. In fact, it seems as though Harry's very existence, his audacity to live his life on his own terms, continues to ruffle feathers. It's as if his decision to break away from royal protocol, to step out of the shadows and into the light, has unsettled the royal order. And what better way to retaliate than by painting Harry as the villain, while William, the obedient son, is portrayed as the victim? It's a classic move, really, a way of controlling the narrative, of ensuring that the royal image remains untarnished. Yet despite their best efforts, Harry continues to live rent-free in their headlines. He's the one making waves, the one the world is watching. And that, my friends, is something that no amount of royal PR can change, because the truth is, Harry lives rent-free in their headlines and in their heads. Let's call it what it is. This isn't a story about reconciliation or maturity. This is about a royal cold shoulder, a calculated silence, and an emotional disconnect. A strategic game of chess where the pieces are carefully moved, not for the sake of peace, but to serve a narrative. The narrative that Prince William is the composed, emotionally mature one, rising above the drama, unbothered by the outbursts of his brother. But if you look closer, if you read between the lines, you see something different. You see a story of punishment, of a brother shunned for daring to speak out, for daring to break the silence. Let's dissect this for a moment. In the world of the royals, silence is a weapon. It's a tool used to control the narrative, to dictate the story. When Prince Harry chose to break that silence, to tell his own story, he disrupted the status quo. And this is the royal response, a cold shoulder, an icy silence, a narrative of indifference. But here's the thing. Indifference is not peace. It's not maturity. It's a weapon, a tool of emotional warfare. It's a way to say, you don't matter, your story doesn't matter. It's a way to control the narrative, to keep the spotlight where they want it, to keep the power in their hands. And let's not forget the timing. Just as Meghan's As Ever brand is taking off, just as she's making headlines, they drop this narrative. It's a classic move, a strategic play to shift the spotlight, to regain control of the narrative. But this isn't about control. It's about punishment. It's about a royal cold shoulder, a calculated silence meant to punish Harry for daring to speak out, for daring to tell his own story. William's indifference isn't peace, it's pride. It's a carefully crafted narrative, a royal cold shoulder, a story of punishment and control. And it's time we recognised it for what it is. And the timing? Oh, perfect as always. Just as Meghan's As Ever brand is taking off and making headlines, they drop this narrative to shift the spotlight. Again. Isn't it curious how the narrative conveniently changes when the attention begins to drift away? The timing of this new narrative, this supposed indifference, is simply too perfect to be a coincidence. The royals seem to have a flair for the dramatic, a knack for pulling the strings of the media to keep the focus where they want it. The real question is, why now? Is it because Meghan's brand, As Ever, is gaining momentum and making waves? Is it because Harry and Meghan are once again in the limelight for all the right reasons? Are the royals feeling threatened by their success and popularity? Let's dissect this a bit further. The narrative they're pushing is that Prince William doesn't care about Harry anymore. But isn't it strange that they're still talking about Harry? If William was truly indifferent, wouldn't he be focusing on his own duties, his own life, instead of what Harry is up to? It seems more like a desperate attempt to regain control of the narrative, to shift the spotlight away from Harry and Meghan. This isn't about William moving on. This is about the royals trying to stay relevant, trying to keep the focus on them. And let's be honest here, if William truly didn't care, we wouldn't be reading this article. We wouldn't be talking about this. The fact that they're still feeding the press with stories about Harry is proof enough that they're not over him. It's proof that they're still trying to control the narrative, to control Harry. But maybe they're starting to realise that they can't. Maybe they're starting to see that Harry and Meghan are not just surviving outside the royal family, but thriving. Maybe they're finally realising that they're running out of moves. They're not over Harry, they're just out of moves.